Hi students, myself Dr. Saiti, Team MDS Conquer. So now we are going to discuss about the venous disorders part 2. In the part 1 we have mainly discussed about the varicose veins, and now we are going to discuss the other important disorders related to this particular topic. Okay, so let's start. So the most important topic under this venous disorders is the deep venous thrombosis. So the Virchow has actually given a triad which is very important for the development of the venous thrombosis, which includes the endothelial injury, the status or turbulence of the blood flow, and the hypercoagulability of the blood. So this is an important triad which is also called as Virchow's triad for the development of the deep venous thrombosis. So the questions can be asked, which of the following is included under the Virchow's triad for the DVT or the deep venous thrombosis, then you have to answer accordingly. So it is endothelial injury, status or turbulence of the blood flow, and also hypercoagulability of the blood. Okay. So the other most important predisposing factor. So if a patient is being hospitalized for a lengthy time or a long term, then either for any surgical or medical condition, then he can be developing this disorder called as a DVT or deep venous thrombosis. So the most important predisposing factor is a hospital administration for any treatment either related to medical or surgical. Okay. So the main pathology underlying this is a thrombus will be developed in the soleal veins of the calf. Okay, that is likely to extend up to the next large venous branch. So first it develops in the soleal veins of the calf, next it spreads or it extends to the large venous branch. That could be either femoral vein or popliteal vein. So any of these venous branch or femoropopliteal veins, that again it can break off and embolize to the lung, causing the pulmonary embolism. So very important and the most important complication which can cause sudden death in the patients with DVT or deep venous thrombosis is the pulmonary embolism or pulmonary edema. Okay, that can again cause the acute right heart obstruction, which can lead to the sudden collapse and death. So that's the reason when a patient is continuously hospitalized, so the signs and symptoms which are related to deep venous thrombosis have to be monitored in order to prevent its progression to the occurrence of the pulmonary embolism. So most important complication, very frequently asked question also, the important complication related to the DVT is pulmonary embolism. So that is very important that you need to know. That why? Because why it occurs is a thrombus that develops in the soleal veins can extend to the nearby large venous branch like the femoral or the popliteal vein, which can break and embolize to the lung, causing the pulmonary embolism. That's it. And other important point is a lung infarction is actually rare because the lung has dual blood supply. The bronchial and the pulmonary arteries supply the lung. So the infarction in the lung is rare. So these are the very important points that you need to note down regarding the DVT. Okay. So coming to the other etiological factors. So the mnemonic is the thrombosis itself. So mainly note the mnemonic as a thrombosis. So T stands for trauma, H for hormones, that is oral contraceptives, R is road traffic accidents, operations, malignancy, blood disorders like polycythemia, obesity, old age, and orthopedic surgery, serious illness, immobilization, and splenectomy. So these are the n number of etiological factors that can cause deep venous thrombosis. The mnemonic is thrombosis itself. So just have a look. And the clinical picture, the patient will be having a swelling, tenderness of the calf, and also the pain will be aggravated on walking and standing for a longer time. There will be visible surface veins at times, and also fatigue of the legs. The warmth and redness of the affected skin is actually rare in deep venous thrombosis, whereas it is actually seen in thrombophlebitis or superficial thrombophlebitis. This is actually rare here. Okay. So coming to the like we will be emphasizing on the clinical features now related to the DVT. So the most common presentation is the pain and swelling, especially on the calf of one of the lower limbs, and at times it can be 30% bilateral occurrence can also be seen. Okay. And many patients can be asymptomatic to thrombosis, and they may be presented with the signs of pulmonary embolism. So though they don't have symptoms related to thrombosis, but they can have the signs of pulmonary embolism like the pleuritic chest pain, dyspnea or shortness of breath, and also hemoptysis, that is nothing but the cough with blood, or the blood will be there, tinge of blood will be there in the sputum, so they will cough like that. So these are the signs of pulmonary embolism, so you have to even have a note of that. Then the other physical lines that a general surgeon usually observes is a mild pitting edema of the ankle and also dilated veins, stiff calf and tenderness over the course of the deep vein. So these are the various physical signs that a general surgeon usually goes or observes. Okay. So questions are like, what is the earliest sign for the DVT or the deep venous thrombosis? It is calf tenderness, and also if the patient is having a repeated pulmonary emboli, then he can present with a low grade fever. So these are the various clinical features that a DVT patient present with. So case based studies can be asked, like a patient has a swelling and pain in the calf muscle with we can palpate the deep there are dilated surface veins, and on palpation there is tenderness on the deep surface veins or on the deep veins. So and also the patient has shown some signs of pleuritic chest pain and shortness of breath. So what could be your probable diagnosis and what could be your connections of diagnosis? So you have to say it's DVT that has complicated to pulmonary embolism. So like that you have to answer. So very important is the clinical features that you need to note down. So coming to the other important signs that a general surgeon usually looks for are these are the signs which you have to note down because they are important. So Hohmann's sign is nothing but the resistance of the calf muscle to forcible dorsiflexion, and phlegmasia alba dolens is a painful white leg. So alba, note it as a white, whereas caerulea is for a blue leg. Okay. So phlegmasia alba is for white, cerulea or caerulea is for a blue leg. Okay. Next other signs are the Moses sign, whereas there is a calf tenderness on the direct pressure of the calf. So if a direct pressure is applied on the calf, there will be tenderness, whereas Pratt's sign is a calf tenderness on squeezing on the either sides. If it is squeezed, then there will be tenderness. So these are the signs that the general surgeon does and looks for. So you need to note down. It's quite important for the NEET point of view as well. So since DVT, why is it so important? Because any patient who is hospitalized for a lengthy time, they can develop DVT which has a common complication of pulmonary embolism. That's the reason, as an exam point of view also, it is very important. So all the related important points and important signs and what are the memory base related to this particular DVT is being represented here. So do make a notes of it, or else you can just have a you can just imbibe it so that you can answer accordingly. Okay. So and important investigation for the diagnosis of this is the duplex ultrasound, wherein it defects the filling defects in the flow, and also there will be lack of compressibility, especially wherever there is thrombosis. So the lack of compressibility indicates the presence of thrombosis. So duplex ultrasound is a investigation for the diagnosis. So that is how they can ask. So what is the commonly used investigation for the choice of diagnosis? Then you have to go for duplex ultrasound. Next, coming to the management. So since the thrombus is being formed, you can go for an anticoagulant like a heparin, which should be used for at least 5 days, and warfarin can also be used as 10 mg on day 1 and day 2 also 10 mg, and again 5 mg on day 3. But after on the day 3 you have to go for a prothrombin test, and then you have to come to a conclusion for the maintenance dose of warfarin. So to go for the maintenance dose, you have to do a prothrombin time test on the day 3. Okay. Next, if there is an iliac vein thrombosis, and especially if it is seen early and the limb is severely swollen, then you have to go for thrombolysis. Okay. So these are the various management things that you have to remember. And next is the Palma operation and May-Husni operation, which is mainly done, both of these operations are the surgical modalities or the surgical mode of treatments for the DVT or deep venous thrombosis. They actually relieve the venous obstruction and they have shown a better prognosis. But how the operation is being done, that's actually not important for us, but just remember the names. Okay. And again, very important point is a minimum treatment time for the anticoagulant should be at least for 3 months. So it has to have that maintenance dose and everything. So you just note all these important points regarding the management of the DVT. Okay. So next, these are the various risk factors that you need to have an idea. So why? Because if the patient is hospitalized, and then you have to know wherein the patient falls in, whether he is high risk or low risk or moderate risk. Accordingly, you can give your prophylaxis, or the surgeon gives his prophylaxis. So you have to note it down. So if a patient has undergone a urological surgery, and if he is greater than 40 years, and if he has undergone an extensive abdominal or a pelvic or a major orthopedic surgery, then he comes under high risk. Whereas a patient who is less than 40 years, and if the surgery time is less than 30 minutes, then it is low risk, and all the others will fall in the medium risk, that is general surgery greater than 40 years and the surgery time greater than 30 minutes, and also the patients under OCPs or the oral contraceptives. So these are the risk factors as per the age and duration of the surgery, so that in case if you know this, then you have to go for the prophylaxis. So that's the reason it's very important. So the prophylaxis. So coming to the mechanical, early ambulation. Ambulation is nothing but you will ask the patient to walk and start his movements. So that is early ambulation is a simple method for prophylaxis, whereas pneumatic compression devices is the most common method for prophylaxis. The questions ask what is the most common method, what is the simple method. So accordingly you have to answer as given here. So simple is the early ambulation, whereas pneumatic compression devices is the most commonly used method. Okay. Next, coming to the pharmacological prophylaxis, unfractionated heparin, which is again replaced by the low molecular weight heparin, but the fractionized low molecular weight heparin has shown better efficacy. So they can ask a true or false statements regarding this. So accordingly you can answer. And fractionized low molecular weight heparin again need not have any laboratory monitoring. So these are the important points related to the prophylaxis management and all the important related aspects related or pertaining to the DVT. Okay. So coming to the other important key points. So as we have already discussed, the most common site is the calf veins or the soleal veins, but though it is most common site in the post-operative period, but the risk of embolism from the calf venous veins is actually very low. So the most common site, though it is calf veins, but the risk of embolism from the soleal veins or the calf veins is actually very low, whereas the risk of embolism actually occurs from the femoropopliteal veins. Okay, so that is the DVT, which is from the femoropopliteal veins, is a common site for the pulmonary thromboembolism. So these are the important key points that you have to note. So accordingly they can ask a true or false questions, or they can ask any other important related questions, what all they can ask from these points they will put there. So these are the only things I have come across. So have a notes of this, that will be very useful. Okay. So next, coming to the thrombophlebitis. This actually an inflammatory process which causes a blood clot, and it blocks one or more veins, especially in the legs. Okay, so this is the superficial thrombophlebitis, and the common causes is the repetitive traumatic infusions of the IV fluids or venipuncture, and also trauma, especially to the varicose veins. So all these are the causes for the thrombophlebitis. So it actually this is mainly, it is seen superficially because it's an inflammatory process which results in the formation of a blood clot, and that can clot or block more or one or more veins in your legs. Okay. So again the symptoms include, or the signs include, the surface veins feel solid and tender on palpation, and overlying skin may be stretched in the early stages. That can be erythematous. Later it turns into brown in color, and again a linear segment of the vein can be palpated once the inflammation has subsided. So these are the various signs. So the skin actually appears to be erythematous, that can turn brown in color, and once the inflammation is being subsided, then the linear segment of the vein can be palpated. Okay. So now this picture actually clearly shows the difference between the thrombophlebitis superficial and the deep venous thrombosis, as you can see. So in the deep venous thrombosis, so femoral and the popliteal veins, femoropopliteal veins are being involved, and it shows a deep blood clot as seen in the picture. Whereas in the superficial thrombophlebitis, a greater saphenous vein is being involved, and the blood clot is seen in the superficial vein, and you can also see a area of inflammation. So area of inflammation is usually seen in the superficial thrombophlebitis, whereas in deep vein thrombosis there will be calf tenderness, ankle edema, and also there will be stiffness of the calf and all those other symptoms. Okay, so these are the major differences the picture clearly shows. You can make a note of that. Okay. So, we are done with DVT as well as the thrombophlebitis and the differences. So, mainly regarding DVT, you need to know the etiological factors and also the risk factors and emphasize on the clinical features and the management. Okay. So, these are the major things that can be asked in and around these topics. Next, coming to the other important questions that usually asked is the venous ulcer. So, here the etiological causes of the venous ulcer, there are two main theories that have been put forward. One is a fibrin cuff theory, wherein there will be high venous pressure that can cause a precapillary infiltrate, which results in the deposition of the fibrin that causes fibrosis, which results in diffusion block that causes the tissue damage. So, this is one accepted theory, and the other one is a white cell trapping, wherein there will be reactive oxygen species that releases the free radicals that causes the tissue damage. So, these are the two theories that have been accepted as etiology for venous ulcer, and at present ambulatory venous hypertension is the only accepted cause for ulceration. So, questions can be asked as true or false. So, just note it down. And almost all the venous ulcers have a surrounding lipodermatosclerosis. So, it is nothing but the thickening, pigmentation, inflammation as well as the induration of the calf skin. So, almost the venous ulcer have the surrounding lipodermatosclerosis. So, this is very important. So, just make a small idea, just have an idea of what are related to the venous ulcer, that is enough. So, mainly they can post a picture like this and they can ask you to actually diagnose what kind of ulcer it is. So, seeing that it has a sloping edges and also it is covered by a slough and granulation tissue is there, then you can go for a diagnosis of a venous ulcer. So, mainly the venous ulcer has a sloping edge. Okay, and the base contains a granulation tissue which is covered by slough and the exudate. So, this is very important as per the case based question, and if the ulcer edges are elevated and if it appears to be indurated, then you have to go and for a biopsy in order to eradicate or in order to exclude the diagnosis of carcinoma. So, in order to come to a confirmatory diagnosis, if the ulcers are elevated, then you have to go for a biopsy, and if the ulcer is on the leg, then it characteristically develops in a region called as a goiter region, where it is especially between the muscles of the calf and the ankle. Okay. So, that is a common site, and also it develops on the medial side of the calf. So, these are the important questions. So, that is it students. So, DVT is very important related to the venous disorders. So, do make a good notes of that, just one page notes is enough, and do solve good MCQs on DVT. So, questions can be asked in and around that. That is it. So, any doubts related to this topic, you can ping me. Okay. Thank you.